All right. Hi. We're going to do take two of this just because the first one didn't seem to want to work, but that's okay. Oh my God. Whatever. I can't have anything done well just because StreamYard's being kind of a jerk. Oh well. Anyway, as I said before, we are here to discuss a couple things. Number one, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody's having a good start to their year. We're 2 days in, so, you know, if you're already off to a bad start, I'm sorry. But I hope everybody had a good time, celebrated with friends, had lots of fun, and hopefully this year is great to you. 2025 hopefully will be a good year for everybody. Um, but we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit more than just discussing comics today. We're gonna go ahead and discuss some movies. That's right, and one of my favorite franchises of all time, which is the Rocky franchise. Now, uh, I've seen all of the Rockies from one all the way to the second Creed movie. So I've seen just about all of them, right? Is there a second Creed? No. Yeah. Hold on. There's two Creed movies, or is it three? I don't know. Whatever. I've seen everything up until the most recent one with Jonathan Majors. So whatever one that is, I've seen it. And there is, even though Creed is separate, so we won't be discussing anything with Creed, but Rocky as a whole, there's one question that always lingered for me, and that is who is the true villain of Rocky? And, a lot of people will say different people's names and say, this one or that one is maybe it's Drago, maybe it's Clubber Lang, maybe it's Apollo, maybe it's Rocky himself, maybe it's Paulie. It's tough to decide which one is truly. And I see a lot of people that will, have opinions going different ways. But we're going to discuss it here tonight. So I've got my wonderful and always, I don't know, handy custom tier list, and we're going to get into it. So let's go ahead and bring this up. There we are. So we have a custom tier list today talking about the Rocky franchise. And let me go ahead and make this a little bigger just so you guys can see it. So, our category for today is Sinister, which is just what it says Sinister, the worst of the worst. Malignant, not quite as bad as Sinister, but pretty goddamn bad. Henchmen, you know, they were bad guys, but they were kind of being directed to do, uh, you know, the things they did. Not to say that they weren't evil people, because a couple of henchmen in there that were pretty bad, but overall, they were being led to be bad. Then you have anti-heroes, someone who was, kind of a troll, kind of a bad, person for the most part. They were in charge of their own actions, but they had some redeemable qualities. Then you have straight out decent, and not always good. So let us. No, we're not going to go straight to saying sinister just because we're not going to do that. That's a little bit too easy. And so for Beckerman, um, I'm gonna let you know that Spider Rico did not make the list. He was just such a small piece of Rocky's lore that I couldn't include him. Yes, he headbutts him in the first movie as the movie's starting, and eventually, and Rocky beats him into the corner and everything like that. But he basically ends up working for Rocky at one point. Like Rocky saves him from being homeless, kind of. So not a bad guy, just guy from the neighborhood, kind of a blockhead. He's not really bad. He's not a villain. Uh, but let's get to our list here. Let's see what we have. So, let's see. We have on the list. Let's start with somebody who should be just pretty much looked on as. Uh, who should we start with? I don't even know. I'm gonna go with somebody who I think. Actually, you know what? We'll go with somebody who was portrayed as a villain. Wasn't really a villain. He was pretty nice enough guy, and that is Thunderlips. Now Thunderlips comes in, he's a maniac, but he's a wrestler. He's playing and acting, and in the end of it all, even though he beats up fans, he punched Paulie in the head. he basically incites a riot. He wasn't a bad guy. At the end of it all, he let Rocky know it's all a show. It's all to make the money for the kids and everything like that, or for the charity that they were working for. So I'm gonna put him as a decent guy. He wasn't a bad guy. He just kind of had his way, and he was kind of just hard to deal with. But Thunderlips wasn't a bad guy. Next up, let me see. Next up, we're gonna go with another guy here. We have. Oh, sorry. So next up, we have our first henchman, and this is one oh wait a minute. This is one that may. Sorry, that wasn't Thunderlips. Thunderlips is right there. There we go. So Thunderlips, I'll put him as decent. Next, we have our first henchman, and one that a lot of people may disagree with when it comes to being a henchman, but Ivan Drago. Ivan Drago was 100% a henchman. As much as, it might not let any people might not think that, he was very evil. He killed Apollo Creed. And, with that being said, he's somebody who I did not enjoy watching as a child. I thought that Drago was a terrible human being for killing Apollo. I thought Apollo was awesome. But the more you watch it and as you get older, you realize that, yes, he did steroids. Yes, he was enhanced and everything else. And then you kind of find out that, just by watching it and going over it, he was more of a, he was more of just a puppet for this, for, the Russians in that movie. Like he was, out there boxing, and yes, he was a professional. He's doing his thing. And, okay. But in the end of it all, like, they basically wanted him to win so that they could, prove their superiority to the world. He was a tool. He was an instrument. And, in the last fight, he picks up the prime minister and goes to punch him because he's sick of being called a loser. And, he gets told no. And he's like, I fight for me, not for you, So he was a henchman. Not really, I wouldn't say he's misunderstood. He was an evil henchman, but he is a henchman. So Drago was not the worst villain, even though he's the one that has blood on his hands, literally, like he killed somebody, but he's not the worst henchman in the series. Sorry, he's not the worst villain of the series. Now, next up, we will go with actually another henchman, and really one of the worst Rocky movies that ever existed, which was Tommy Gunn. Tommy the Machine Gun came out of nowhere, wanted Rocky to manage him, needed somebody to help him out. He was hungry, he wanted to fight. Rocky had just lost everything and, was just kind of opening his gym to make ends meet, finds a kid with a lot of potential, guides him into his professional ranks and helps him get to the point where he's an actual viable contender for the championship. Tommy does leave him behind. He does kind of, get hooked up with the Duke, who's basically a Don King-like character. And, he abandons Rocky. He basically spits in his face and thanks Duke for everything that, brought him to the dance. But in the end of it all, he's still a henchman. He still was a guy who was corrupted by outside forces. And on top of that, he was just, a misguided jerk. So, definitely a bad guy. Like, he was not a good man by any means. He was kind of twisted and warped into that. He was twisted by greed and got around the wrong people. So, it is what it is. Anyone who's watching, if you want to go ahead and throw in the comments or give your own opinions of what I'm saying, feel free. If you want to throw your list or how you see things in the comments of this video, please go right ahead. I have no problem with that. But we're going to move on with this list right now. So now we're going to go ahead and grab who should be next. Let's discuss actual Duke. Now, Duke is Apollo's manager. He was the manager that Apollo had in the first two Rocky fights. And, later on in Rocky 4, you find out that he was, that he basically raised Apollo. He was kind of a father figure to Apollo. And, in the first movie, he's not a bad guy. He's just doing his own thing, doing his job. Second movie, he tries to convince Apollo that, Rocky is not the right fight for you. This is you should let this guy go. We should move on to somebody else because Rocky is not the one for you. He cared about Apollo and he wanted to see the best for him. Rocky 3, he puts his differences aside, works with Apollo to help Rocky fight Clubber Lang. Rocky 4, after Apollo dies, he still manages Rocky and continues managing him all the way up and through the fight he has in Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa, versus Antonio Tarver's character. I think his name is Mason the Lion Dixon. So, as somebody who you could categorize as a henchman, he's not a henchman. He's actually a good person. He, I would say, is among the people that was truly good in that movie franchise. He wasn't a bad guy at all. So Duke is a good. He's actually a good person. Um, I can put myself down there. Perfect. I like that. That's where I'm gonna be now. Bear with me, guys. I'm new to this. Like I wanted to just pre-record this and streaming. I wasn't having it because I didn't have the upgraded thing. So it is what it is. Anyway, back to the list. So, and I understand it's a little boring right now. It's not, we haven't gotten anyone who's, specifically great. So let's go now to Mickey. Now, Mickey was Rocky's manager through the first 3 movies. He dies in 3 because he has a bad heart and Clubber Lang, basically scares him to death and pushes him, and that makes him have the heart attack. He starts off as kind of a jerk in the way of that, like he doesn't believe he's angry with Rocky. He sees the potential that Rocky has, but knows that he won't go to chase it. Instead of being an actual fighter, instead of making the commitment to boxing, he goes out and as a he's a collector for a loan shark, for the mafia. And so he's Rocky in the beginning is kind of, I don't know if if you call him a mob associate. He just kind of works for a guy who may be an associate himself. I don't know. Anyway, so that really made Mickey angry, and he wanted to get rid of him, kick him out. Then when Rocky gets this opportunity to fight, Apollo Creed, who's the world champion, Mickey then comes crawling and says, "Hey, I needed a manager when I was growing up. I didn't have one. You should have one." And kind of wheels his way in, to manage Rocky. Goes ahead, manages him. Rocky, fights to a draw. Then the second one, he wants Rocky to fight, and he tries to manage him again for the title. He does so. He's trying to, basically tells him like you have all the potential in the world. Well, first he tells him not to fight at all because Apollo would have caved in his face because he's just his eye, he's basically blind in one eye and this and that. So he's looking out for him. But then he decides that he's going to go ahead and he's going to manage him and then going to take out Apollo Creed. So he does it. They win the world title. Woo! Rocky 3. He's managing him still, and I guess he's getting him opponents that are manageable that Rocky can deal with. Because regardless of the fact that Rocky won the world championship, Mickey knows that he's not, that Rocky basically makes his way through with raw power and heart. He's not a finesse boxer. He's not really a good boxer per se. He's outlasts the guys. So the guys that he's fighting, they're contenders, but they're past their primes. So he's doing that to protect Rocky. So where I would put him is I would put Mickey because Mickey's not a bad guy really at all. He's actually a pretty good person who looks out for Rocky's best interest. So I'm going to put him in a decent guy. Not bad. Next up, you know what? I'm going to throw everybody a curveball because next up is the man himself, Rocky. Where does Rocky fit into his own series? Is he the hero of his own series? I don't think he is. Rocky is not necessarily a good person. He's not a bad person. He's kind of, he's got a heart of gold, but he's a dimwit. You know what I mean? Like he's just, he's not well educated. He's not, he's street smart, but in between. He's kind of just a guy who people respect within his neighborhood, but he's not, he's nobody that is I don't know. I don't know really how to explain it. Just Rocky's, just your average guy who happens to be, very tough, very strong, can box. And over the course of his time, you see him, he's you know kind of, I don't know, got this Pepe Le Pew type relationship with Adrian, where it's just like, I like your sister. Why don't you set me up with your sister to Paulie and this and that and everything? And so he gets with Adrian, everything's cool. Um, you know, and Rocky himself, fights, you know, wins, draw the first one, wins the title the second time around. And in the second one's where you kind of see him get the more heroic part of thing, where he's just like, I want to be a fighter, I want to beat this guy, I want to prove that I'm an actual champion. And he wins the will of the people, running up the stairs and everything like that. Good for Rocky. Rocky 3, still kind of a decent enough guy. Like but he's kind of selfish. You know what I mean? Like you just have to see Rocky's selfishness kind of come in, because he now is all about trying to win. He wants to have the fight with Clubber Lang, but he's training like an idiot. He's not, it's this big event. He's got all these people. He's got pianos. He's got a band playing in the background. There's bubbles and everything. Like, he makes a big spectacle of it. And then of course he gets his head kicked in, because he's not focused. um so he loses, then refocuses, comes back, beats Clubber Lang. Rocky 4, he jumps back in the ring to avenge Apollo. 5, he's trying to bring Tommy up and make him into a contender, and that goes south, and then he ends up having to fight him out in the street. And this is where I say the most telling thing is about Rocky, because Rocky in 3, Apollo keeps talking to him about having a favor. And he's like, what favor? And the favor is that Apollo wants to fight him for the title. He wants to try to get his title back. And Rocky, I think, is more than aware of this. And then it's revealed later on in the Creed movies, that in the fight that they have after, the just fight that they have in the gym, when they're kind of dancing around and decide to, go ahead and have their little sparring match there, Apollo beat him. He said, Apollo beats him. So now Rocky knows full well that that was just behind closed doors, no cameras, no nothing. I lost. Now, if I fight him again in the ring, he could lose his title. And at this point, he's rich. He doesn't want to lose what he has. So what does he do? You get to the Ivan Drago fight. He's trying to convince, Apollo not to fight Drago, because of the fact that, Drago's this murderous machine that they really don't know much about. And then after the first round, Rocky, with genuine concern, is like, he's killing you. I have to stop the fight. Apollo's like, no, don't you stop this fight. He's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to win this thing. Now, as Apollo's getting bludgeoned again later on, he's being implored by Duke to throw the towel. And Rocky just stands there looking at him. Doesn't throw the towel, just stands there. He has all the power in the world to stop this fight. I think he doesn't stop the fight on purpose, because I don't think he expected Apollo to die, but I also don't think that he wanted Apollo to I don't think he wanted Apollo to be able to come back and try to fight him for his title. So I think Rocky is selfish in that way. Rocky let Apollo die. So I would put Rocky in his own series as an anti-hero. He's got good qualities, but he's also got some things that make him not the best in the world. So we're getting more into the nitty-gritty of some people. So then you have the Duke, the actual Duke, the manager of Tommy Gunn, the Don King character of the series. He's just a piece of garbage. He's not a henchman. He is someone who I would consider to be malignant. So I'm going to put him right there. There's really not much to explain about him. He just, sees fighters as pieces of meat. First, he's managing Union Kane, and he wants, Union Kane to fight Rocky. But, Rocky's, going to retire. He wants nothing to do with it. Then when he has a chance to turn Tommy Gunn, he does, and that they have it. So he's a bad guy. let's see. Let's discuss another guy. So Apollo. Now Apollo is not a bad guy at all. Apollo actually starts out kind of a bad guy. He is, you know, I mean, in the first one, he's not really a bad guy at all. He's just giving an up and comer a shot. So he's generous, right? And he's doing it for his own, again, selfish reasons. He wants to, elevate and kind of give back to the community. Okay, fine. Rocky 2, he wants revenge. Like he's sick and tired of people telling him that he didn't win that fight, that it was staged, he carried Rocky, and that's all he did. Okay, fine. He goes in, he loses. And he probably goes into a dark pattern after that. He has a he's not doing well because he lost. He basically lost to a virtual unknown. So it's a rough time for Apollo. Rocky 3, he goes ahead. He's eyeing a comeback. That's the one thing they don't tell you in Rocky 3. In Rocky 3, Apollo's eyeing a comeback. So he's outside, he's retired. Clubber Lang makes him angry. He sees Rocky, wants Rocky to knock this guy out and move on. Rocky doesn't. He loses. Happens. So then Apollo's the guy who sees him and says, "Look, something's not right with you. We got to get you back into being the champion again. If I can do this, then I can help you. Like you got to fight in a different way, someone that no one would expect." And he goes out of his way to help Rocky to the point where he's bringing him to his gym, teaching him his methods and how he moves and everything like that. And goes ahead and you know manages him for that fight, helps him get into the ring, helps him get himself together, and then you know he wins the championship. Asked Rocky for, like I said before, he asked Rocky for a favor, not knowing what the favor is, and the favor is that he wants a title shot. Unfortunately, he never gets that title shot because he lets his pride bother him, because he again is threatened by Drago and the reports that they're saying about him, where Drago is this new wrecking machine that's going to be tearing up, the boxing ranks, heavyweight boxing ranks, and he wants to get in there first. So unfortunately, he does, and unfortunately, it's the end of Apollo. So Apollo is honestly, I would rank him kind of as an anti-hero. He was, you know, he anti-hero to decent. Like he was actually a decent enough guy, but he had enough, I guess, too much pride to kind of let things go. So he, again, not a villain, just a guy who was too proud, and his pride got the end of him. Um, let's see, who else do we have? We have Polly. Polly actually is kind of an interesting one because Polly, I'll say this much: Polly is not a bad guy. Polly is actually, he's a selfish guy. Absolutely, he, expects that Rocky should owe him something for allowing him to hang out with his sister. For basically, he takes credit for Rocky's accomplishments, even though he's got nothing really to do with them. And he is Rocky's, I would say, best friend though. Like he looks out for Rocky. He makes that comment about people used to laugh at him. Who was the guy that used to beat people? He used to beat up people on Rocky's behalf when they were giving him a hard time, I guess during childhood or something like that. Um, and then you have Rocky 3. His jealousy boils over. You can see it. He smashes the arcade thing. He actually gets physical and starts trying to swing on Rocky, and he wants a job. Rocky gives him a job because it's his best friend, and kind of and his brother-in-law, and lets bygones be bygones. He goes with him out to LA to fight with Apollo and everything. He helps train him. He's basically in his corner from Rocky 3 on, and he's there for him. He helps him with going to Russia. He just stands up to Tommy Gunn, takes a punch for him and everything else, and just talks. He's one of the only people that's really honest with Rocky. So on in terms of everything outside of him being a selfish guy, he's actually a very decent person. Like he's got Rocky's best interest at heart. Next, you have Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang is absolutely, I would say, in terms of the fighters, he is Rocky's best opponent. I think like he's his biggest opponent. He's the one that does the most to Rocky, um, as far as being the one who's just overall taking him out. Like he's the one that makes Rocky afraid to fight. Like he was scared to fight after getting beaten by Clubber Lang. No other fighter made him afraid. Like Apollo didn't. He wasn't afraid of Apollo. He was not afraid of Drago. He was not afraid of, uh, you know, uh, Spider Rico. I guess he wasn't afraid of anybody. Clubber Lang beat him so badly he was scared of him, like literally scared of him. That's something that you didn't see. So he put the fear in Rocky. He attacked Rocky on multiple fronts. Calling him a chicken and weak and everything else. But then he got him, I think, in the most, in the most, I guess, just blatant of ways when he's like, hey, lady, why don't you come to my apartment? I'll show you what a real man's like. I still laugh at that because who would ever sit there and go that far at Rocky? And he got him basically to come out of retirement by telling him, hey, you want a real man, come to my house. And Rocky couldn't handle it. He freaked out and he went after him. Happens. I also have a theory too about when it comes to Clubber Lang and Rocky. Their first fight, the way he beats Rocky, when he hits Rocky for that knockout and Rocky's whole head turns, he breaks Rocky's neck and he's either dead or a quadriplegic. My theory is this: Rocky 4 and beyond doesn't happen. It's probably he's either in a coma and it's a dream, or he's dead and that's just him dreaming in heaven because Clubber Lang destroyed him. But of course, that's just my theory. That's not how the movies go. So, he finds his way back. He beats Clubber. All's right with the world. But yeah, Clubber is malignant. He is actually a bad, bad person in this thing. He's governed by evil. Like he doesn't care who's in front of him. He pushed Mickey down, a feeble old man, like it was nothing, and all Mickey did was yell at him. But he was perfectly fine with beating up on anybody who got in his way. Didn't care about anything. So now I've listed everybody, pretty much all the main characters of Rocky, and it's time to reveal the most sinister person in Rocky, the actual true villain of Rocky, which is why we've all been here. And that true villain is none other than Adrian, Rocky's wife. And I will present evidence to go ahead and make that known. Adrian came in as a shy woman, just with her glasses on, working at the pet shop, quiet, hardly spoke, just kind of the shy, introvert. And she starts dating Rocky. Everything's cool, like that's perfectly fine. And you don't really get much of her personality in the first movie. She's just kind of just quiet and shy. Second movie, you know, Rocky has his fight. Doesn't think he's gonna have much of a career. Thinks that that it's just a one and done, right? So then she's like, okay, well, use your endorsements, do like, you just continue on, you don't have to fight anymore. But then he gets the opportunity to be the world champion, and she makes it her mission to tell him that he cannot fight anymore. He's not allowed. Makes him go ahead and do all these commercials. He gets embarrassed because he can't read, and then has him going ahead and reading at bedtime, so he's better at being able to read, which all right, commendable. But she's doing it for the reason of that she wants money, and figuring that he can use his popularity to make money. I understand that, not the end of the world, a little bit selfish, but not too bad. So then they're gonna have a baby. She's like, I don't want you fighting. Perfectly fine, but she made him so upset about it that he refused to train, and then she ends up having almost dying because she's working full time, carrying these big bricks and working in the big barrels full of I guess food and everything at the pet store. She almost dies, then comes back out of it, says go out there and win. Okay, fine. So then he trains, he beats Apollo. This is where Adrian, I think, becomes more sinister. So remember that Adrian doesn't want him to fight. Her reasons are semi noble, not really. And two, three, he's the champion now. She's living the life. They're rolling around in the grass. She got a flower in her hair. She's happy. They're going all over the world. He's fighting, defending his title. She's got all these new dresses and everything, all these expensive things. They're having a great time. right? And then what happens? Rocky gets his ass whooped, right? The worst beating he's ever gotten. And she's just sitting there like, okay, like you're gonna go back on the horse, you're gonna go back out and fight, aren't you? And she sees him struggling. Excuse me. She sees him struggling. He's sad. He's upset, and can't do it. And then she gives this whole big impassioned speech about what's the truth? Why aren't you training right? What's going on? And and he says he's afraid, and she's like, yeah, so you got to get over that. Basically tells him like if you're gonna fight, do it for the right reasons. Like don't fight for the wrong reason. Go out there and fight for the right reason. Gets his head back on straight because Rocky's easy to manipulate, and he goes out and he beats Clubber Lang. Now, why did she motivate him to go ahead and do that? We'll get to that in a moment, but just understand this: at this point, she's living the good life. Okay, Rocky 4, right? Living the good life. He's gonna go. He's basically moved into retirement now. He's still the world champion, but she wants him to move into retirement, really retire and be done with it. Okay. Now she's been banging this drum for him for 2 straight movies. Here's the third movie. Here's Rocky 4. She wants him to go. Apollo dies, right? And he's like, I'm gonna avenge my friend. I'm gonna take this fight. I'm doing this for Apollo. She freaks out. You can't win. It's suicide. What are you thinking? How could you? And all the rest of this type of stuff. Now, I understand you don't want your loved one to go out and get killed. However, he's made plenty of money that they can live comfortably. So even if he does die fighting, she's taken care of. It's all right. But, okay. So then she goes back to telling him what she did in Rocky 2, which is basically like, you suck at this and you shouldn't be doing it. So Rocky 2, she whittled his confidence down to nothing. He didn't want to fight anymore. Rocky 3, she builds him back up because she's, again, living the high life, wants the money. And now, what's she doing? She's Rocky 4, she's right back to tearing this poor man's confidence down to nothing. So much so that she's like, if you go to Russia, and I don't even remember, she said, if you go, I won't be there. But basically, she abandoned him. She's like, look, I'm not going to be there if you go over there. So then, partway through, she randomly shows up, right? Randomly shows up, and now he's training, and he's back, and he's ready to go, and everything. And then he wins Rocky 4. Okay. Rocky 5, she's now going to get her wish. And she's like, look, you need to retire. Like just because this is it. No more. His brain's all messed up and this and that. In the midst of, going ahead and basically telling him that he can't, and actually getting medical diagnosis to back up what she's saying, that, he has to retire. They end up losing all their money. And that's the first thing that she does. She freaks out, and because Rocky doesn't know why Paulie and Adrian are arguing. And so he's like, what's going on? She's like, the money, Rocky. We lost the money. And she blames Paulie for it. Now, this is where I have a problem with Adrian, because when the whole thing happened with the with Apollo dying, and then Rocky agreeing to do the fight and go to Russia, right? Paulie was on the plane with Rocky at that moment. He packed up, went with them, like a best friend and somebody who managed him would do. Goes right over there. Who was home to manage all the finances while Rocky and Paulie were in Russia? Adrian. Now, Adrian, I think, is the one that sat there and lost all the money, but she needed a scapegoat, so she went ahead and put Paulie in there and said, Paulie, and maybe Paulie decided to take the fall because he knew that, Rocky wouldn't do anything to him. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, Paulie couldn't have been the one that screwed them over because and basically gave their money over to the lawyer because he was in Russia with Rocky. It was Adrian. Adrian's the one that lost all their money. All right. And she sat there and gave him a hard time about that crap. This woman was I mean, literally all about herself. She reveled. She tried to basically take his career away and make him do endorsements after the first movie. She built his confidence back up once she had the high life and didn't want to lose it. She broke him down again and told him he can't possibly win. Then she spent why, and that's another thing. That's why I think she went to Russia to build him up again, because we're going to need a payday because I did something terrible over here with our finances. Let me go over here and just kind of soften that blow. So Adrian is the villain of Rocky, hands down. She is the worst for him. She doesn't believe in his ability. She doesn't care anything about him as far as like what he wants to do with his life. She's just there to basically live off of his accomplishments and keep the blood money. And then when they have to go back to the old neighborhood, she's all sad and upset and angry at him. And he's like, all right, well, I lived here before, it's cool. So that's it. There's the list. Adrian is sinister, absolutely the villain of the whole thing. The Malignant, the next villains up, is the Duke and Clubber Lang. The henchmen, Drago and Tommy Gunn, the guys who are manipulated kind of into their positions. Rocky is an anti-hero. You heard it here first. That's the way I look at it. Apollo, also an anti-hero, but overall a good guy. He could actually fall into the decent category. Mickey, Thunderlips, and Polly are all decent people. Flawed, but decent. And I would say, honestly, the most genuine and best person, the most selfless out of everybody is Duke, Apollo's manager. So that's the hierarchy of Rocky. That's how the villain list goes. And you can let me know if you agree or disagree. But let me know in the comments what you think. I want to thank you all for watching Boston Talks Movies. Hopefully, I will be able to do more of these, and um, you know, StreamYard will cooperate with me so that everything works out better. But I want to thank you guys. Everybody have a good night. Again, Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys later because I'm gonna have some comic content. So to come back with, I have actually a mail call that came in, so I'm gonna go ahead and record that at some point. Probably do it live. But thank you guys for watching. Again, let me know what you think of my list in the comments, and have a great night.